Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Astrology and Beyond. I am Tatiana, also broadcasting for ANN Archetypal News Network. Today, I'm going to bring you the first half of February, the astro weather, and what's been going on a little bit in the past few days, and moving on to this next phase. The energy is a little bit kind of interesting, for lack of a better word. Um, I wanted to touch on like the fact that we just had this new moon that was very, very interesting, um because I feel like things are moving really, really fast for everybody. And so I'm going to touch up on that first. Let's look at the chart. And I know I haven't been very present these past few days, lots and lots happening, but I'm here with you today. And let's see up. Okay, full screen. Okay. Let's see what it's been going on. So the new moon in Aquarius took place on Wednesday, and today is Friday. So this is I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this, but it's just to point out the amazing transits that are happening at this moment, how things are moving very, very rapidly, and how these past few days and moving into this week, there's a lot uh, of help, let's say, from the stars within a very rapidly changing environment. This like first 3 weeks of January have been like insane with things going on in the world. But I try to keep myself to myself and sense around me what's going on in my own energy and my own life. So interestingly enough, here we have the most concentration of energy is in Pisces and Aquarius. And these two energies, if you notice, most of the energies right now are air and water, very little earth, except for Uranus. Other than that, is very all the energy is emotional, is mental, emotional, moving. There's not necessarily a time to ground things. This is a time uh to connect to a higher version of yourself. And I've been thinking a lot about what mind means. I mean, what it means. Mind, like the mind is a function of us existing here in order to be able to create this reality. And part of the game, let's say, is to understand the interplay between mind and no mind. So I've been really called to thinking about, and this is kind of a function of this Pluto Mercury conjunction, where there can be deep, deep thinking, deep understanding, deep revelations, and deep awarenesses, and not only at a level of your own self, your psyche, but also around things that are happening in the world. Whenever Mercury and Pluto come together, there is a lot of disclosure, things that we didn't know about our connections, connectivity, the world. And interestingly enough, we have so many announcements this week around like AI world. I don't know if you knew about this whole DeepSeek thing, and it could be also like is shrouded in also maybe some kind of theft, some fakes, and I mean lots of news out in the world that are archetypically the reflection of this pairing here of the Pluto Mercury, which is kind of is interesting. But at a deeper level, let's say at a higher level of consciousness, for what I have experienced, it's really more about uh, it's really more about the connection, the deep connection to our own psyche and ourselves. So the deep mind, what I call, it's interesting because deep seek, in the world, is like, for me, it's deep mind, Mercury and Pluto. And the deep mind is always trying to ravel us more and more into the thinking, whereas the trajectory of the thinking is an outward motion, and the non-thinking is an inward motion. So I've been playing around with what that means, and how mind, especially when Mercury and Pluto come together, the mental field can get obsessive, cluttered, intense. There's so much thinking until we're able to drop, drop. drop and have revelations. The revelations also come from the mind putting ideas together, maybe finding out things in your own being that you have been questioning for a long time and suddenly having these deep insights. So at its higher frequency, this is what Pluto and Mercury are helping us to do, to understand things deeper within ourselves. Um, and again, this process of evolution and moving outwards and then inwards to the center, where the center really is the no mind. There is nothing there, and when there's nothing there, then who am I? Who are we if there's nothing there? Only that awareness or that presence that is just observing the thoughts. And when the thoughts are gone, then what happens? What defines you? So these are the questions I've been, asking myself, uh, to start detaching also from mind, which Pluto and Mercury are very representative of. How can we also detach from the amount of information and how heavy this can be? And this is particularly representative of the connections we're having right now with all this AI and news and fake news and different points of view and things and agendas, and the world can seem crazy and cluttered and intense. So the best way to deal with this energy is to literally drop it, drop all of it, detach from it, transform it, and use it in a positive way. Otherwise, it can feel extremely overwhelming, with which in reality, I felt very overwhelmed by this. So, now back to understanding this energy of this past time is that we have, well, this is a time where it's very important to balance the emotional vulnerability, which is it's given by this the Mars retrograde in Cancer, with the practical action and to address wounds that hinder personal growth, while embracing curiosity and exploring new horizons with confidence and creativity. So, what does mean? This is all the configuration of this Chiron squaring Mars retrograde in Cancer, and Mars being in this trine to Venus, and Venus is also loosely conjunct to Neptune, and Neptune to the North Node. So all of this energy, again, this might sound, very technical, but what this points to at the same time as this new moon in Aquarius, which is a very, it's a new moon that has given us the opportunity, because it's also trining Jupiter, the opportunity to recenter ourselves into the best versions of ourselves. So when we say balance the emotional vulnerability, it means that our thoughts and emotions can be now seen as a pairing, almost like what I'm thinking is what create my emotional nature. And if I can have that awareness, that detached awareness of how my emotional nature creates my reality, then it's easier to take practical action, to move in a direction where I know that this is going to be healthier for me, my relationships, and that's for you all. And it doesn't, this really is a generalized archetypical function of this time. But what's really important is the curiosity. And this curiosity comes from this like Aquarian energy, the curiosity, the Mercury in Aquarius, the newness, the excitements of new horizons, what that even means. And that could be embracing change as well, embracing the changes that are happening in your life and really trusting that you can totally drop those things that you know for sure you're no longer going with. And knowing that there are always windows opening. And the tricky part is like, it's only when we have fully detached that the new things really appear. And that's the trick, is can we detach fully and completely to trust that all this new energy can come in, can come in with great, great possibilities for us. Of course, if you are an Aquarian, this is your time, peeps. Like this is going to be like massive revelations for you. So anyway, this is just a little bit of the entry of this first 2 weeks, and as you see, like all these trines are really pointing to a lot of push towards that evolution, towards being able to be more centered, more vulnerable, more capable of finding our true north. And this is interesting because with the North Node conjuncting Neptune, there's going to be this opening towards a deep trust in something that we cannot really see or understand. But the more we surrender and surrender into that trust, that non-thinking is the non-thinking. Our thoughts are so limited. Our thoughts can only create what our small mind can create. This is a time where it is really important to drop into the larger thinking, which is the non-thinking. Again, I bring this again and again. Stop thinking, just being in this presence and allowing the intuition, the images, the next steps, the little breadcrumbs to kind of show up. It's going to be really important. Now, moving on to like the first week, we have this is where we have the conjunction of Neptune to the true node, and in Pisces. And this is where I mean, we've already talked about this before a little bit when the North Node entered in Pisces, and now with Neptune being there, it's going to be like this revelation after revelation, insight after insight. But the insights, again, like I say, they don't come from thinking, they come from being, from sensing, from the intuitive part of the being. And this is where we need to trust that the all those mental faculties that we have that try to control everything, that we need to know how things are going to play out, we need to be in control of life. This is not going to cut it, not at this time. This is the time where we need to kind of surrender more to the practices that allow us to be more in the flow, to be more in the now, to be less worried. And again, the worry can be just only causes more of what you focus on. So this is the time to just drop those worries and trust the inner being. Um, so we have there's also some good aspects here happening when we see the trine of Saturn to Mars. Well, this is a time where things might seem that they're moving kind of slow, like Saturn slows things down and Mars is retrograding. So it's not necessarily the time where things you're actually seeing a lot. This is a time where we're reassessing, especially matters in the home, matters in the family, matters with what makes us feel safe and secure. Who are the people that we want to surround ourselves with, that we trust and that we call our family? This is kind of part of that archetype of the Mars in Cancer, the protection of the family, the protection of the loved ones, and what that actually means for you and for us as a species also, which is interesting because it seems like there's a lot of groups now, groupings kind of trying to form and find bonds with each other. And this is a time where we're re-evaluating what are those bonds and who are we willing to be be uh, together with to move forward in our lives. Also reassessing and re-evaluating maybe matters of what it's important in terms of taking care of your own needs, because Cancer points out to the needs, to the security, to the safety. Now, with the trine to Saturn, it could also signify that that we're able to slowly make progress in into something that's important to us. Saturn and Mars is this kind of slow and steady energy that when it's properly focused, it can yield extremely awesome results. Now, it's in water. So in water, it means that there is a deep dive within the emotional nature. And this is why this is not a time to be necessarily creating things and manifesting things, because this is an amazing time to be diving deep, maybe into our emotional nature, diving deep into the nature of consciousness, diving deep. This is Mars, diving, diving. And this for us could mean finding more of our true essence, discovering more of who we are. But the only way to do this is with discipline. And this is where the Saturn can help us sit, in that stillness so that we can dive deep and understand. Mars Saturn, great for meditation. It's great for focused attention. So where we put our attention, this is where things manifest. So where are you putting your attention? What thoughts are you putting your attention on? Because that's what manifests. So anytime there are pervasive thoughts, fear thoughts that come from, listening to this and that, and the world's doing this and that, ask yourself again, is that my reality? Or is it something that I'm putting my attention on, and therefore I'm just creating more of that? How can I use my discipline, Saturn, to come back to my center, my own self, and the capacity to direct my own thoughts? What do I want to create? Where are my thoughts going? So this is a great time. It's a great time right now to focus. Focus your energies on something that truly matters to you. But first and foremost, what are you thinking about? What are your deep, deep needs? Which is kind of really important. Let's see, what else could we say about that? Uranus, where am I? Okay, some other things here. Square to Chiron. Okay. Um, Now, there's also Venus that we're going to be seeing moving into Aries, and that changes a little bit the vibe of this more dreamy Venus into a more like excited Venus. So there might be maybe something new coming in your life, something that you're excited about, some kind of spark, and a desire for a little bit, maybe something that brings a little bit of excitement to your life, and then let those new connections or new things or new ideas start brewing, because that's what later on will bloom into something for the future. So um, any other thing here that is significant? We have Mercury and the Sun conjunct and in trine with loosely trining the Moon and Jupiter. And this, again, because it's air signs, can point to immense capacity for thinking new things. Those things that you were probably kind of not knowing how to move forward in life, or there's something blocked. Well, this is the time where we can align our minds with the sense of self, and the expansion that Jupiter promotes is the confidence. And this is what's amazing, because as much as this is a loose conjunction, this is still a loose conjunction between the moon and Jupiter. These these act as like a combo to really fuel and bring forth confidence, bring forth ideas that are really the idealism. It is the absolute idealism. What is to be an idealist is to bring something new that has not yet existed, that it doesn't necessarily come from repeating past patterns or past ways of doing things, but suddenly something new and fresh comes into your mind, and these new visions come into your awareness. And again, if you're an Aquarian or if you're a Gemini or anybody or even a Libran, so anybody with air in their charts, with significant planets in air, you will be probably feeling this, that there is something subtly new, fresh, new confidence, new ideas. And this is the time to really start dreaming big and and making sure these things are actualizable. Now, the tricky part, it's going to be this connection between Chiron and Mars. We still need to heal. And this is pointing to healing what in our lives have hindered us from moving forward. Why, for example, are we afraid of jumping into something with confidence? What are the patterns from our childhood? And again, Cancer, probing back into the inner child, the nature of um of the of the the experiences we had when we were children, and how those experiences have shaped who we are now, and how those some of those experiences could be blocking us from really jumping with trust into and with courage into what we know is really good for us, what is aligned with our soul, with our purpose, what really makes us vibe, what excites us. So what part of your life do you still feel that there's a block, that there could be a difficulty, something that comes up to be healed? Maybe you have to encounter again a moment of crisis or difficulty where those things are like still prominent, especially if you have any points in Aries. If you have anything in Aries, you might be the because Chiron has been transit in Aries. This is where these archetypes get really alive now, because you're being touched by the question, uh why why am I not moving forward? What am I scared of? The courage. Where have I lost courage? Now the question is to find in your history, where in your childhood you were not able to move forward, where in your childhood you were told you can't do that, or where in your childhood you had an accident or something that happened to you, that then you're like, okay, I'm not doing this. This is too risky. Taking risks is dangerous. This is what's wanting to be healed. So that again, when we take risks in the coming months, these risks are not taken with fear and with already the failure in mind. Because what happens with these energies is like, oh, why bother even trying? I will fail anyways. That's the energy of this. So why bother trying? So this is what needs to be healed. It's like how exciting it is to try something new. And if we fall off the horse, then so be it. Let's fall again, and then we'll try the next thing. So this is the time to get back on that horse and say, I can ride that horse again, and I am safe and I am confident, because the energies are really pointing to that confidence. And that confidence that is brought by Jupiter and the moon and in connection to the sun. And again, if you're an Aquarian, a Libran, and Gemini, this might apply to you, especially if you have anything around these degrees. Let's say from the 10th degree to the 25th degree of the air signs. This could be really, really positive for you. So if you're that person, jump into your horse, just do it. Get the new exciting ideas into motion. Now, what can be a little bit tricky is this coming up square of Uranus to to Mercury and the sun, because then what happens is that all these new ideas can just happen so fast, and one like the desire to free oneself from the old can be a little bit premature and non properly thought out, that we rip the fabric of like what we don't want to do with when there's square to Uranus is like detach too fast, that we burn things, that we end up collapsing things with and tearing things. I also think, I always think of Uranus of this like it just tears it, it rips it, it goes pop, and then separates it. And then there's like, oh, what happened? This ripped apart. It's no longer, it's it's gone, And so the invitation is to go like this, tear it slowly. Yes, slowly. We're ripping apart. We're moving into the new things. Do not just throw all the old things to the garbage right now. move slowly. And all those things that are like, for example, get rich schemes and all this AI things and cryptocurrencies, all of that stuff is very volatile. And sometimes there's a lot of promise in those things. Um, and and what I'm getting is that this is not the time to jump fully into all these new innovative things that are changing the world. This is a time to question what are the things that I can do to evolve myself, and within the very rapidly changing environment of all these new technological advancements, how can I insert myself within these new environments in a way that is ethical, in a way that it's going to be of service to humanity, and in a way that is going to be good for the environment, for people. And that's what we don't know. Things move so fast. We don't even know if all these new progress that is happening is even good for the earth or not. I mean, it's all so fast. So this is why the invitation for us at this time is to question within these very rapid changes, how do we show up? While still all the while moving forward and embracing the new things, because the new things are here to stay, by the way. But do we embrace things like sheep, or do we question and then go to the higher octaves of our being, which is the capacity to put boundaries? And this is where Saturn in Pisces is giving us that capacity to focus. And this is why we need to be disciplined into how are we discerning information, discern the learning of discernment, so that we can actually go for things that really align with our values truly and dearly, and not just out of the blue. Otherwise, it can be very restless. This energy of Uranus and Mercury can be like shocking, shocking news, surprises, and things that might be just not we're not ready to deal with, or conversations that are like just come out of the blue, and they're not necessarily in sync with a process. It might be just these random things that just appear, information that appears, and we're not necessarily verifying it. So again, take deep breaths. When Uranus gets too active and the mind gets like, "Pfft, yes, this is a great time to get insights," but ground them, have the capacity to actually slow down. This is where the practice of slowing down is going to be very, very useful, so we can use discernment and not jump into things quickly just because it feels like the thing that's going to free us up from um, from from things that we believe we need to move away from. This is more like, okay, what's the new thing, and how do I slowly dip my toe in before jumping in head first, right? This is going to be really important during this time. Um, uh, Now, again, back into the conjunction of Neptune and the node, the North Node. Well, this is going to be happening for a little while and marking the pace of a new era, let's say, or a new, not era, but it's like for the next 18 months, we know as the nodes move through Pisces, there's going to be this massive callback towards soul, towards trust, towards flow, towards non trying to figure out how things work, but just trusting that things just move. And with Neptune conjuncting here, and wherever you have this in your chart, whatever house you have your Pisces, the 20th degree of Pisces, this is the area of life that you're going to have to let dissolve. Neptune dissolves things. It just mushes them, turns them into water and dissolves them like a watercolor. So wherever you have the Pisces in your chart, when Neptune conjuncts the North Node, there's going to be something that we're needing to completely let go, in the sense of let dissolve. A part of life where we need to have deep, deep trust. Deep, deep, deep trust. And this deep trust comes from surrendering. There's nothing you can do about it. So if in the area of life or whatever house you have your Pisces energies, ask yourself, what is it that I'm needing to trust fully, a process that I can't think and can't control, can't even imagine? In that area of my life, I need to let go, completely let go of all expectations, of all ideas that I have. So let's say for like a brief, if your Pisces house is the first house, this is letting go of your sense of self, your sense of who you think or thought you were, and completely trust that there's something bigger for you. If you have it in the second house, is about your values and the things, even things and material possessions. Kind of detach and know that whatever happens, even things that you thought you were like accumulating or acquiring, you might need to let go of that. In the third house, it's letting go of um, probably mental patterns. Allow yourself to dissolve into the not trying to control your mind or make anything much um, about the way you think really is allowing new ways of thinking to permeate you and release the old ways of thinking by trusting that everything that comes through your mind is a flow. Also maybe certain things that are having to do with siblings and neighbors, it's like allowing that to flow. That might change for you as well. There might be you might be moving to a place or a space where you have different connections around yourself, or you discover a place maybe even by the water, who knows, right? The fourth house, anything having to do with your sense of safety, family, home, uh, trust that whatever's happening in this area of life will unravel itself naturally, and you will be able to find a sense of safety and home, especially because Saturn is here, by gaining maturity as well. Saturn has been transiting your fourth house, so there's something about emotional stability and emotional intelligence that has been coming for you, and the need to own your own emotions and own your own sense of safety and stability, so that you can actually trust that your home really is anywhere. Your home is where your heart is. So whatever happens in within your family, your direct connections on your home, trust that if it's something is dissolving and changing and moving, it's for the better. If you keep yourself centered in the knowing that you are always home within. This is the fourth house. The fifth house, what's dissolving is maybe the sense of the ego self. Sometimes is the the your self-expression and the way you have always expressed or seem to have been expressed, something is changing, morphing, and dissolving in this area to reveal something new about how you express yourself. It could be a new creative endeavor or new creative ways that you've never considered before, especially if you're an artist. Brilliant time for artists to be moving into their into new ways of creating things that are completely out of what you could ever imagine when you trust that you're just channeling something and not necessarily controlling it with your mind. In the sixth house, your daily routines might be changing as well. You might not necessarily be able to have routines that are the same all day long. Maybe this while the nodes transit the sixth house, is like you'll notice that you might be needing to be more present with just everything that is and making your life a ritual. Like you don't know exactly what comes next, but is the meditation in process. Your work is a ritual. Talking with somebody, just being so present that everything you're doing, your daily tasks become spiritual. They become the flow of life. And again, with Neptune and the North Node conjuncting, it's almost like what is becoming spiritual in your life? What is becoming dissolved and spiritual and new and infused with magic? In the seventh house, it would be your relationships. So this is where people might meet also soulmates or soul family and have these deep connections that defy logic, and trusting that the connections that you have are really meant to be. And you need to trust that whatever connections you're having with, and whether they're romantic or partnerships, are meant to be to be highly connected and spiritual. And maybe some older connections are also dissolving. Remember that we're dissolving something to flow into the next thing with this aspect. In the eighth house, this is a little bit deeper and tricky because it's some attachments that you probably had are going to start dissolving as well. And because in the eighth house, this is also where we have attachments to this deepest attachments we have is in the eighth house, what's really intimate. So now the sense of intimacy might mean that some attachments need to dissolve. So you need to detach from certain maybe people, relationships, or way of being in relationship, and trusting that there are different ways that are more divine, more spiritual of being connected, more authentic and more true. So your attachments or your, let's say, connections and intimate connections might become more rich during this time, when you also trust that new things might be coming and new ways of seeing even sexuality. It's not, might even be transforming into a more tantric way of being sexual. Yeah. In the ninth house, the is the what's spiritualizing is also your beliefs, your beliefs. And if you have, for example, been dogmatic and following a religion or something very strict, this might actually start changing, and your beliefs might need to be dissolving and aligning with something a little bit more unknown, more mysterious, even more mystical. This is where truth and the knowing becomes the mystical experience that you can't explain. So that might be happening for people with Pisces in the ninth house. In the 10th house, your participation in the world, the meaning that you bring forth, might be your career might be now more aligned with spiritual values, and things that you might not think you were going to be doing in your life might be showing up right now that are more aligned with a spiritual sense of connectedness for the world. Remember also that Neptune brings in enormous compassion, and especially Neptune with Venus brings beauty and grace and compassion. So, whatever your actions are going to be towards the world, will have to foster the sense of compassion, and whatever you're creating for others in your public sphere will be infused with this compassionate nature, and and with spirit, literally. The 11th house will be groups of people. So the people, the friends, and the organizations you'll be aligning with will be, again, maybe dissolving the previous ones that are not in alignment. The groups that you were with might not necessarily gel anymore, and that might need to dissolve to maybe bring new connections that are more soulful. And again, the organizations that you're part of might start being more in alignment with a collective, the collective goodness, or the collective connectedness, and like more charitable actions, more a desire to really help all of humanity. So the groups and organizations that you're connected with will really be starting to have that that feel. Now, let's also remember with Pisces that all is not rainbows and butterflies. Dissolution can be very scary when there's no clarity. This is the issue with Neptune, that at a lower frequency, you might be experiencing in these areas of life a lot of confusion and not knowing, not having no north. You're like in the water. But this is why when you're in the water, the best way to deal with the water when the waters are moving is to float. It's not to try and swim. You get tired, you sink. This is just float, because the water will take you where you need to go. Now, in the 12th house, um, there's going to be like a deep sense of knowing, or a connectedness to the true essence of the divine, or whatever that is, the source energy, God, divine, whatever we want to call it, that you might find a renewal in. This whole year is going to be a real re-immersion of, or reconnection with something very, very sacred and deep that you only know and nobody knows. It could even be connection to all of your past existence, or your whole soul being. And when you actively interact with these energies, then it can be completely life altering, especially because the 12th house, which is the house of all that is and the mystery, can be gaining this again at the same time mystical quality, but also a lot of confusion. So anyway, that's kind of my take on the this very important conjunction through basically each house. So just look to where you have your Pisces house and ask yourself that question. Um, Now, I will be doing a second video because this one has been going a little bit long and I actually need to go. But just sit with this and then we will look to the next segment for the following week. So I love you very much and I will see you in the next video. Please feel free to leave any comments, like, subscribe, tap the little bell, and let me know how you have been feeling and how you're going to, in which area of life are you allowing yourself to trust, to grow, and to let spirit take over? And how is that working for you? Not easy, but exciting. All right. See you in the next video. Bye.